Kentwell village, there was normally a quiet place, but for the week that the circus came into town, and once a year, Hope Park was the scene of uncontrolled excitement as the big top was erected and the side shows were set up. There were bumper cars and there were tigers behind bars, people eating fire, men on the high wire, jugglers tossing balls, clowns with funny falls, white ponies that pranced, snake charmers that tranced, acrobats in flights, coloured flashing lights, great excitement and entertainment in tent after tent, as people in their droves and thousands crammed into Hope Park in the hope to catch some of the action. In fact, whoever wasn't there wasn't alive and can't well at all. That's how popular the circus was. It was a special place for every family to go to. And one of the families in Cantwell village was a family called the McEldoppel family. And one of the youngest in the family was Popple. Popple McEldoppel went along to the circus every time it came into town, and on the first night that it opened, he was always there, young Popple McEldoppel by name. He loved the bumper car rides. In fact, he stayed on the whole night long and got on car after car, refusing to get off. In fact, one night, before he even realized, all of his family had left and wandered away somewhere else in the park. And poor little Popple McEldoppel got lost in the crowd. He never knew his own way back home. I suppose he got frightened and he shouted, "Nobody wants me anymore." What made it worse was all the people in the crowd just walked past him and ignored him, just like they never even knew he was there or saw the tears flowing down his cheeks. In fact, after about 20 minutes of bawling his eyes out, Popple decided that he'd sneak into the big top when nobody was around, find a place to lie down where it was safe and spend the night. Until the next morning, when he would surely be missed by his parents and they would find him eventually, but only after he had suffered. And they would surely suffer for leaving him behind on his own. And he waited until the last of the circus goers had left the park and watched all the circus performers go inside their little caravans when and then he crept under the big top and found a great big empty row of seats. After clowning around for a bit there to a make-believe audience, he took a bow and then cuddled up in the safety net under the high wire and fell fast asleep. Popple was awoken briefly from his sleep by the roar of a hungry lion. It frightened him that much that he ran inside a big box that had a sign written on it which read, "Marvin's Magic Mysterious Vanishing Cabinet." Popple went inside the closet and hid. The sound of a terrific crash burst the quiet outside, and a flash lit up inside the strange box. Blue lightning had surrounded him, and poor Popple hadn't got a clue what was going on. He just put his head into his hands and prayed. As soon as all the commotion had stopped, Popple opened up the door of the magic box and stepped outside. He could hardly believe his eyes, for there, in the exact same spot, was a football field. No caravans, no circus tents, no big top. A strange field. And Popple walked across the field, not knowing where to go. and what to do. He was certainly in ambient wonder at this magic place that had surrounded him. He saw a signpost and it read, Hope Park, home of the Happy Wanderers Football Club. Popple had never heard of them before, and by the time Popple had heard the cry, it was too late to defend himself. 3 tough-looking fellows surrounded him with sticks in their hands. "Where are you going, weirdo?" said one. Another said, "Where'd you get those funny clothes?" And the other said, "Let's cut his hair." Popple ran, frightened, and like lightning out of the park and into the busy road. Motor cars rolled along the street, things that he had never seen anything move like that before. They're so fast. And he noticed gangs of youths standing in corners, fighting each other with sticks and swords. In fact, everywhere he went, it was the same. People shouted at each other. Bottles and stones were being thrown. Popple had never known anything like this before, ever in his life, taking place in Kentwell. And he stood and he thought in wonder, what's happened? What's happened? And after about 20 minutes, a car with loudspeakers blurted loud music all over the place. It was a radio program. Popple had never heard any of the songs before, and it was only when the disc jockey announced the day and the date that Popple realized where he was. 15 years had passed by in the blink of an eye. Popple was so shocked at this, and at first, then soon calmed down, when the car with the loudspeaker stopped right beside him, and a strange man approached him with a microphone and said, "Well, in Cantwell today, we're asking people what their favourite song is. What's yours, little kid?" Popple stood and thought. He took the microphone and began to speak like a man inspired. He caught the attention of everyone around him in the street. "You've got to believe me. I'm from another place and time, and where I come from, we don't fight. We live in peace, happiness, and contentment. We love life and protect each other and help one another. Can't you see what you're doing to each other? You must stop fighting." A deadly silence fell all around. People gathered around Popple. They touched his clothes. Some felt his skin. Others asked questions. Everybody who listened to Popple were amazed. Some started to support him. Anyway, as it happened, Popple became a hero, came to public attention with his words of peace and encouragement. All the TV stations and newspapers had splayed out all over the place on the air and on their front pages and painted his statements in his face. There was posters hung up all around the town. He had a cult following him everywhere he went, in every place, and every day there was crowds followed him everywhere. Popple McEldoppel became an honoured citizen of Cantwell 15 years on, and peace once again returned to what once were mad, bad, terrible streets of violence and shame, only because all the people could see for themselves how they had changed, how they had turned around and found they could live together in peace. And Popple was able to show them how angry people once they were, and how peaceful now they could live. And when they looked back, they seen how angry they were. And for some unknown reason, Popple had been able to almost save the world by being locked in time for so long. Finally, the McEldoppel family found Popple. They couldn't believe it was really him. In fact, they didn't want to know at first that Popple had got the answers for all of their questions. Finally, they believed that he indeed was their son and brother who had stood still in time for 15 years. Well, that must have been the longest bumper car ride in history, son, said Popple's daddy. Everybody laughed. Popple went on to live a normal life with his family. He grew up to be a fine man with a family of his own. Papa told all of his children, and they told all of their children, all about the boy who got locked in time.